Baby, can't you hear my call? I can't stand.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dave Sims. Welcome to another edition of the Hey Now podcast with my sons, Jarrett and Jordan, as we explore the pivotal moments, the trigger moments in the lives of successful people. And our guest today is Robert Wuhl, a guy the comedian who has starred in Arliss and many other films. A good guy, good friend, a huge sports fan. Going to have a lot of laughs with him. But first, our opening pitch. Hey, guys, NFL, we're heading into week 3. And the first 2 weeks of the NFL over the past 10 years, I tell you what, passing TDs have gone down in the last 10 years. The high was 110 back in 2020. Then 2021 was the same number. We're talking about the first 2 weeks, TD passes combined in the whole league. 86 last year. Right now, just 69 in the first 2 weeks. For my money, given how play in the preseason has really been diminished in terms of running your first stringers out there, game time timing certainly has got to be off across the league. That's what it would seem to me as I look at these numbers. But I look for them to pick up really fast here. What do you guys think?
You know, you can't say across the board that fewer games are being played in the sense of the starters being run out there. There is obviously one fewer preseason game, but it's pretty standard, I think, at this point that guys, the first stringers haven't played and usually sit out that last game. I know Stroud played in the preseason. The great Patrick Mahomes, obviously, he played. Our guy Jalen Hurts, they didn't play much, many of the starters from the Eagles, but it'll pick up. Scoring. The NFL wants scoring. Quarterbacks are greater than ever. What do you got, Jordy?
No, I was going to say, I assume it will pick up as well. If you look at, I'm curious to see what the trends were from the last few years of how I think they sustained to more normal levels after the first 2 weeks. But we do have a bunch of young quarterbacks playing who are just not playing well at all. Bryce Young just got benched. He's been terrible. Caleb Williams has been bad. Bo Nix. And then you have some other guys coming off injuries like Rodgers and Cousins. So who are not probably at 100%. So I think we'll see it pick up. And also, just deep. There are more good running backs now as well, I think, in the league. So
amazing how that trend is coming back. It seemed like running backs were going out of style in terms of guys you heavily rely on, and now it's coming back. All right, second pitch here is Adrian Wojnarowski, the marvelous, the outstanding, the longtime reporter at ESPN. Has retired to move to his alma mater to be the AD. We're talking about a guy that was making 7 figures. We're talking about a guy, probably one of the most powerful sports reporters in the business. I mean, so much news would come through him. Trying to compete with him must have been a bear. I do remember seeing his byline. I believe it was at the Bergen Record when I was at the Daily News. One of the really good guys. And, having to be on 24/7, 365, clearly took its toll, I would think.
Yo, it shows you that you can be in your 50s and chase your dreams. I looked it up. I was curious how old he is. He's 55. He's the top of the top in his industry, what he does, breaking, Woj bombs. We all look forward to him. And it's just makes me think that, Dad, you're the best, one of the best at what you do. And, you may still you've got time to go and chase your passion and what you are wanting to do as far as your dreams in nature, exploring nature. Because we all know, at least the family does, that you love hikes, right, Jordan? Dad loves hikes. You weren't on that one. And for those who don't know, you've never seen anybody curse out nature like Dave Sims. When I tell friends, Dad, that you're a combination of Joe Pesci from Home Alone, not trying to curse, mixed with Samuel L. Jackson dropping MFs. That was Dave Sims on the what mountain was it?
Mount Rainier.
In Mount Rainier. So you can chase your dreams like Woj as a nature guy. I'm excited for it.
I'm a park ranger.
Yeah, right. Jordy, you're a big basketball fan. I mean, Woj leaving. It's going to be interesting watching ESPN try to fill his shoes.
Yeah, I wonder if Schefter's been dipping his toe into the water in the NBA Scoops game. So maybe he becomes a full-time basketball guy as well, doing double duty. I don't know, but yeah, Woj really has to love St. Bonaventure, the university, and their basketball program to take this job. I get it; he wants a less demanding schedule, and he's probably made a ton of money already. So good for him. I'm looking, but I'm curious who's going to fill his shoes.
Yeah. I will keep an eye on the Bonnies. St. Bonaventure, alma mater of the late, great Bob Lanier, one of the all-time great centers we had in the NBA. We're going to turn our focus right now to sports and entertainment. Robert Wuhl is our guest. We had a blast with him. I think you'll enjoy it. A happy hey now welcome to Robert Wuhl, actor, comedian, writer. And when I first saw Robert, it was at the Improv a while back. And you banged out a routine saying, Catherine the Great's final words. Yeah. And I never forgot it.
Wow. Boy, I forgot that. It's like that is a long time.
That's a while ago. How you doing, man?
I'm doing okay. It's early.
Yeah, it is early out where you are right now. And Robert's also, folks, a big baseball fan. I run into him on a lot during the baseball year. Matter of fact, the first time we met was back in 11. You were at Westwood One, and I was at Westwood One doing play-by-play and whatnot. You had a talk show, and that was the first time I was on there. I'm curious, your start. You're growing up in Jersey. Did you have this in mind to have this great career that you're having right now? This type of career, doing
I
this
always
stuff?
wanted to be. I wanted to be in a show business. I wanted to be usually behind the camera. I always wanted to be a storyteller. I love movies, love TV. I love comedians. But I always saw myself behind the camera, not necessarily in front of it. But I took acting. I did all the acting thing and drama thing. But I've been pretty fortunate that I really have been able to, carve out. And I didn't want to get stuck in traffic during a career. I didn't want to drive and go 9 to 5. So I've been really fortunate from the time I started, like you said, at the Improv, and I started back in '76. I've been able to, have a career, and afford, to do pretty much what I've been able to do, So that's been very lucky.
You've been an upfront performer. You've written. You're an award-winning writer. Let's start with the stand-up comedy. Walk me through that area, that time in your life.
Well, at the Improv, I started writing, and I also was writing jokes. I just got out of college, and I started writing jokes for Rodney Dangerfield right away. He liked my jokes, and so he gave me a leg up. I had started putting together an act, a stand-up act. Rodney brought me out to California, when he was doing the Tonight Show one time, and he introduced me to Mitzi Shore and the people at the Comedy Store, and I went up and I did well. And I became a regular there. And as soon as I moved out in 79, within a month, I got Hollywood Nights. And I started, working. And after Hollywood Nights, it was like a 4-year period where I didn't work that much. But as far as media, but I was having a stand-up career, and I was on the road as a comic for about 3 or 4 years. And I was writing. I wrote Police Squad and a TV series, and which was the precursor to the Naked Gun movies, working with the guys at the airplane. And then about 86, it started to gel because I got a director, Mary Lambert, saw me at the Improv in LA and cast me in the Madonna Material Girl video. And then Barry Levinson, who liked my stuff, put me in Good Morning Vietnam. And then Bull Durham happened. And then after that, Batman happened. So by then, I had a career.
Boy, you mentioned some big names there. I mean, Barry Levinson had a great run. And doing the writing and everything. What was it like, transitioning, getting into film, coming from comedy?
Well, I had an acting background because I had an acting background in college. My college classmates were a guy named Brett Cullen and Dennis Quaid. We were all classmates together, and so we had a really good acting class. So I had unlike most stand-ups who don't maybe have an acting background, I did. And of course, loving movies, I knew every actor and I studied acting. That was the best classroom, was watching great actors in movies and then watching bad actors, who I've emulated at times. So So I was prepared.
What was Rodney? I go back to a second to what was Rodney like? What was it like working with him? And this was your start, and that's
Yeah,
amazing. What was
Rodney
it
was the
like?
greatest. Rodney was a character of the nth degree. He was. How do you describe Rodney? A partier, mad partier. As far as Keith Richards had nothing on Rodney. Rodney liked to he liked to. Those are early '80s. Those are late '80s, late '70s, early '80s. That was the big drug time, and Rodney was because Rodney was not a kid. Rodney had started with Lenny Bruce. That was his, and he didn't hit it big until the early '70s. Started mid '70s is when he really takes off. He takes off when he's doing the Sullivan Show and the Tonight Show, and Saturday Night Live comes along then, and Rodney, and then back to school. And what do you call and Caddyshack. And so Rodney was a character in a half. Rodney was funny. Rodney was one of the great joke writers. Rodney, he was. First time I met him, I knocked on his dressing room door because I told the manager I had some jokes for him at his club, and I'm 25 or so, and he says Rodney's downstairs in his dressing room. So he's in his dressing room, and Rodney was a bit of an exhibitionist. Rodney would sit there in a robe after his show with nothing on underneath, and with the robe wide open. And he says he was notorious for this. And he wasn't the highest class human being in the world, but he was great. So he's sitting there, and I said, I got some jokes for you. He goes, okay, kid, let me hear them. And I would do the joke, I'll tell you all right now, but last week I was in rough shape, Some guy comes up to me at the airport. He says, loan me $5 till payday. I say, when's payday? He says, I don't know. You got the job. So he said, okay, kid, the jokes are good, but don't do me. He would do stuff that he said, you're a really good comic editor, because I would take words out and put them in different orders, and I'm good at that. And in fact, he would call, but the funny thing was, back when there was phone machines, he would call up, leave a joke. He would tell me a joke on the machine, and then pause for a laugh.
He would hold for applause on the answer.
Yeah. He would do stuff like, hey, I'll tell you, I worked some rough joints, Vinny's room, on the menu they had broken leg of lamb. Okay, what do you think?
True professional.
Yeah, he would do that. He was special. He's very special.
Were you,
very
as
funny.
his running buddy, just curious? You were what, 20, 30 years his junior?
No, I was about 25. I was a running buddy. When I'm not really a running buddy, but I was with him.
I was trying to get at some of those party stories to see if you were on the road. I wanted to see if there was.
Well, the partying was not that we were actually parties. He was a drug. It was drugs. It was a lot of blow, and he told me, you got to keep your pipe clean. You got to keep your pipe clean when you're smoking weed, man. You got to keep it clean. As far as that, and Rodney liked his hooers.
Like Ralphie,
but he was great. He loved. The thing about Rodney, he helped a lot of young comics, but he didn't like comics who had nothing to say. He had no patience for them. He'd go back in the day, sit in the back of the Improv, and when young comics would come on talking about it, they'd do some observational crap like, it's silly when you're waiting you're trying to get out of the garage, and the guy in front of you is taking forever, and Rodney would start heckling him. He would heckle young comics. He would say, come on, kid, tell me a joke. He goes, you told me about a parking lot. Next you're going to tell me where I buy my shoes.
So I take it he wasn't a huge Seinfeld fan?
No, he did like Jerry. He actually liked Jerry a lot because he respected Jerry as a terrific craftsman. He thought was a great craft, which he is. He thought Jerry's. He had a lot of respect for Jerry because by the way, that was my group. It was Larry and Jerry and Keenan Ivory Waynes and Paul Reiser.
About Larry Miller.
Larry Miller was one of them too. Yeah, it was Larry David and Larry Miller, and also Gilbert, may he rest in peace, and Oh boy, that would just be. I mean, you go to the club, the Improv, we would all be on the same show.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it was
That's
good. It was good. But but
Man.
it was you had to be good because there was only 2 or 3 places you could work, and if you didn't, you better be good.
Yeah, you had improv, you had catch and comic strip in
That's
Manhattan,
in the
right?
comic strip. That was it. That was it. And on these, that was it in New York. And
In
then
New York,
suddenly,
yeah.
places to work outside started to pop up, and each city started getting a comedy club, and then you got to start some paying gigs. Yeah.
Wow. Speaking of dropping names, how'd you get hooked up with Billy Crystal, who's one of the all-time, great comics
Um,
and writers and performers?
Billy's manager was a friend of mine. Let me go back a
Okay.
little bit. My manager also managed Carl Reiner, the late great Carl.
Oh,
And Carl's wife, Estelle, had a cabaret act. She liked to sing in clubs. And so she was opening at this local club, and she was going to do her show. And I guess my manager Carl wanted an opening act, a comic. So my manager submitted my tape, and he said, yeah. And so he asked me to do it. And to be perfectly honest, I wasn't, I thought of myself as an edgy, hip comic, and I didn't really want to feel like opening for Estelle Reiner, singing, cabaret songs, as good as she may be. So, but I said yes because it was Carl Reiner, and I wanted to meet Carl, who was one of my idols. So I get to opening night, very small club, maybe sat 100. And I'm looking out in this very tiny club, maybe it might have been less than 100. And in the front row, we're sitting up looking right at me from me to you, is Mel Brooks and Anne Bancroft, Billy Crystal and Janice, Jamie Lee Curtis and Chris Guest. Who else? I mean, all of that. That whole group, they're all looking at me. These are all comedy great, and I did my show. I did well, and so be it. Then about a month or two later, I get a call from David Steinberg, Billy's manager, saying Billy's going to do, and I knew David, and he said Billy's going to do the Grammys, hosting the Grammys for the first time. Would you want to write it with him? I said, yeah, sure. And it was just the two of us, and so we did that, and it went very well. And we did that 2, maybe 3 times the Grammys. Then he gets the call to do the Oscars, and we did that. What's interesting about writing the Oscars is that back then, this is like early 90, 89, maybe so 90. It was just the two of us writing it. It was me and Billy writing Billy stuff, writing all these.
Right.
There was other people. There was a couple of 3 people writing the straight stuff, as we call them, the gazintas and the gazatas, which is like the patter and stuff. But it was just me and Billy. Now, like Kimmel, they had 21 writers. It was me and Billy. And then me and Billy, and then Bruce Valanche joined us the second year, and David Steinberg would always help because he was a very funny guy and is a funny guy. And then Mark Shaman helped us with the song montage thing, the song parody.
That was good.
But that was it. We never had more than 3 of us. That was it. But then I left. Oh, I know what it was. I guess I had done Batman. That's what it was. Well, no, but I had done Batman after I did the Grammys. Yeah, we did. I did Batman. We did the Oscars, and then I left to do Arliss. Billy, we would meet we would meet together. And well, what happened? We didn't get much writing done. We had some broad stuff, but we didn't get much writing done until the nominations came out because you don't know who's going to be in the room and what's topical at the time. So we would do that, and we would just meet and throw out some ideas, and just naturally make jokes about the people, which ones we liked, which ones we didn't like, and then we had. Here's the thing that we did. I thought we did, which succeeded. From the beginning, we determined that it wasn't the Billy Crystal show. It was the Academy Awards. Now they call it the Oscars, but it's the Academy Awards show. So you're the host. It's your job to keep it moving. To be like any other corporate event, really. I mean, except it's a different audience, and the audience, with the exception of a couple of people, is not as hip as you think it's going to be.
Right.
They're not hip because a lot of them are crew people, and and everybody, and don't make these people any smarter than they actually are. And also do your stuff up front. Do your stuff up front. Do your monologue or whatever bit you're going to do. And then, for the most part, get out of the way. I was always, we were always an crime rate. And when he would look at me, between the things I would put down, you'll appreciate this. I put down a 1, which meant fastball. Just get to it. Because Billy and I are both baseball fans, so I go 1 fastball. Now, we did have a list of spontaneous ad libs ready to go in case something happened. And of course, you're dealing with a great comic artist in Billy Crystal. So when you get something that does happen, like the Jack Palance doing one-arm push-ups, he was great. And then we would quickly meet backstage with me, Bruce, and Billy, and come up with the Jack Palance just bungee jumped off the Hollywood sign. So it was great. But the key was to keep the show going and not stop it for anything, because the show's too long to begin with. It's 20 minutes too long. You're going to start doing bits. And that is, I would say, my biggest problem with everything that's happened since, including when Billy came back the last time. They stopped the show to do these comedy bits that nobody cares about. The show is too long. Don't do a comedy bit. Nobody cares who's in the next room. Nobody cares if you're handing out. It's like, now you also have to remember that audience. Here's the problem with hosting the show. When the people watch it at home, they turn it on at 8 o'clock at night or 7 o'clock this year. When you're doing in that audience, if you're in that audience, you got to be in that seat an hour before the show starts. Okay, so now. Hold on, wait, that's just starting. that means you got to back it up to 7. Now, you've got about another hour before then parking the car and getting through the red carpet. So now you're backing it up. Now you're backing it up 2 hours. Now you got a good half hour in LA, minimum, with traffic getting to the place, probably an hour. So now you're backing it up 3 hours. Now, as anybody will tell you, the wives and the girlfriends and everybody's getting made up beforehand in their house and getting dressed, and they got to that's another 2 hours for makeup and hair. So now you got 5 hours before, and you have not eaten, and more than likely you haven't gone to the bathroom. So that's 5 hours you have been in that room, but when the show first starts, and now you got a 3 hour plus show. So. And by the way, that's one thing. Number 2 is, with every category that goes by, 80% of the people in that category, 4 out of the 5, have lost. They're not in a good mood. They want to get out of there. They want to eat. They want to go to the bathroom. So your jokes are not going to land. They're not, hey, the show's starting. It's exciting. That's great in the first 10 minutes. But when you're an hour into that show, they're not that happy, most of the people. And they're not, they want to get up, and that's why you see everybody scurrying when they come back from commercial, because you got people in their seats. You have the place seaters who are there to, when somebody gets up, they have to sit in the seat because they don't want an empty seat. So it's not an easy show to do for the host from that point of view. And anybody who stops to do bits, I think it's ridiculous. And plus, it stops the show cold for a show that's a half hour to 40 minutes too long. Anyway.
Hey, Dad, have you had any Mariners games that mirror Robert's experience with the Oscars? Sure you have.
Yeah, we had 15 innings, 16, 17
innings. Every game this year. Every game this year so far.
You've been following.
Every game this year so far. What are you talking about?
The folks, I just want to tell you, when I remember, I think they took it. You were at the T-Mobile Park, and you were up in Jerry DePoto's booth, and I was on TV, and I saw it, and I said, wait a minute, I know Robert Wuhl. And I think I caught you. You came down. I texted Jerry to bring you down. And that's when we met for like the second or third time, and we, keep in touch over the years. And you were just talking about baseball.
Yeah, I'd much rather
talk about. I know. I figured as much, because I know when we get together, we saw you in spring training. State of the game. I'm curious your state of the game. I mean, we're about the same age. You've seen all the changes. Where's the game right now in your eyes?
Okay, as far as rules changes, I love every single one of them. I think there's long,
including next year at the 10th inning. You like that 10th inning? Because I know
nobody wants extra innings. Hey, wait a minute. No, who wants extra innings? Do you want extra innings sitting in that booth? No. Okay. Do the managers want extra innings? No.
And kill the bullpen? No way.
No. Do the players want extra innings? No. Do the networks want extra innings? No. Do the operations people want extra innings? No. Do the people who are parking the cars out there want extra innings? No. And above all, no matter what anybody tells you, the fans don't want extra innings. because the ratings go down, and when you look into this, you look back at some of those games where the 13th, 14th inning, you can count the number of people in the stadium on a hand. Nobody wants extra innings. Get the game over. So I have no problem. And there's excitement in the extra innings. There's a guy at second base. He scored. The other team can score. Nobody wants extra innings. Okay.
You weren't sitting in Atlanta when the Mets.
Rule, and there should be more. In fact, here's one that it doesn't affect. Here's one that isn't really a rule. It should be a change. And it's the one place that no one has attempted to talk about in years, and it's the official scorer. This official scorer crap. Why isn't there a team error? 3 guys go around, they circle a fly ball, the ball drops, that's a hit, and now that batter gets on base, or if it's a foul ball, it extends the inning or the at-bat. The next guy hits a home run. Why should all these runs count against the pitcher's ERA? When it comes contract time, that's going to count against him. He had nothing to do with it. It should be a team error. There should absolutely
Pitchers
be
Union is going to call you. The Pitchers Union, part of the Players Association, they're going to call you. They're going to go for that.
There's official score, and if the ball doesn't touch the guy, it's not a hit. It's a hit. That's crap. There's a lot of times a ball should have been caught or something like that, and the guy doesn't catch it. That should be an error. Or a team error. Something like it should. I mean, the official scorers is something that should be attended. Any other rules that jump out at me? I like every change they made.
You can't blow up the catcher. You can't blow up the infielders.
I have no problem with
any. Path.
I have no problem with any of that. The one was it 2 days ago? I heard the Players Association are complaining, and I'm usually pro player, but if they're complaining that the
pitch clock.
Yeah, that is such crap. That is such. You're going to tell me that before last year there wasn't any Tommy John injuries? What do you mean? Kids were getting Tommy John at the age of 11 before last year. I mean,
exactly right.
How many kids had Tommy John? So you're going to tell me that after all the Tommy John injuries over the last 30 years before last year, and now because it's 1001, 1002. Oh, that's so much worse. Now it's so much worse because of that. Come on, that is just the union crying foul because they got their ass handed to them in the negotiations.
I hear you. I'm a union guy too, but I agree with you on that one for sure. I mean, I
belong to about 5 or 6 unions between Writers Guild, SAG, AFTRA, Directors Guild, you name it. I belong to a lot of them. So, but but that's ridiculous. So I love every rule change. As far as the pitching is, somebody talked about something that Chris Bassett said the other day. I heard they brought it up saying about Tommy John injuries and the pitchers blowing out their arms. He says, when is baseball, or the powers that be in baseball, going to realize that if you throw 99 to 100 all the time, you're going to blow out your arm rather than learning to pitch at 92, 93. He goes, and saving a career, because the athlete today is bigger, stronger, faster, better nutrition, better trained, better than ever before, and these guys can't go 6 innings.
Yeah. You're growing up in Jersey, Yankee fan, Met fan. Who were you?
In the early years, it was the Yankees, because the Yankees were great and the Mets weren't. But I like both teams. I'm a believer. I have a motto. My motto, I might have told you this before. My motto is life is always better when the home team wins. And I don't mean that just in sports, but in family, in business, in politics, whatever you want to apply it to. Life is always better when the home team wins. And it is. I mean, you go to work, everybody's happy, or your home team wins, or your business makes a big deal, or you did well, or your family did well. I mean, or the guy, your political candidate. Life is always better when the home team wins. So I live in Los Angeles and New York, so I root for those teams. I'm very dear friends with Lon Trost in the Yankee front office. So for many years, he used to live next door to my sister, so I knew him for 40 years before this. So I root for, but I root for baseball teams, and I sold beer in the Astrodome when I went to school in Houston. I like certain baseball cities because they're baseball cities. St. Louis.
Rank them. Give me your top 3.
Baseball cities?
Yes, sir.
let me leave out New York and LA. Certainly St. Louis. Cincinnati's a great baseball city.
It's a shame they don't get to open up the season like they did forever.
You got to put Boston in there and Philly. Basically it's your those are first of all, St. Louis is the only city I know that kicked out the football team and kept the baseball team. So good for them. If you think about that, everybody else does the opposite. Everybody else wants a football team. St. Louis kept the baseball team. Those are great baseball cities. And by the way, however, I could make an argument that the best stadium in baseball is actually Pittsburgh.
It's a great ballpark.
It's a great ballpark. The one thing
view, they do downtown, the river, the Clementi Bridge, right?
Yeah,
the only thing they sort of messed up when they put the media box up near Saturn, but other than that, it was.
That's true. For you guys, it's tough. Yeah. Wait. How about Washington's press box?
We can touch the Capitol Dome.
I went there to do something. I was doing some interview in Washington, and I went up there, and I got a fear of heights, and I did not like being up there. I got to tell you, it's high. Is Pittsburgh's higher than that? No, it's like the same as that.
Don Sutton, the late great Don Sutton, when first time we saw him after they built the new place, he said the second day I had to take my rangefinder to see how high up we were from home plate. It was a ridiculous number. It is.
And Robert, have you been to each of the ballparks? Have you watched a game in each ballpark?
I have been to 29 or 30.
Okay. Yeah.
What is number 30?
Tampa Bay. So that's yeah. So yeah, that's
no rush.
Yeah, George Will told me not to rush either.
Yeah, no rush.
No, I love go to baseball games. I love it.
I want to get into the Arliss portion of your life, and you had and stick with baseball. Man, you had everybody on from baseball, right?
I had a lot of people on from most sports. The sport we couldn't get people from a lot of times was golf because we were at the mercy of the schedule that they played. And golfers,
no doubt.
We shot usually April and like June, July. So that's the golf tour. So we didn't have many golfers on. We stole some shots from Riviera. And again, whoever was in town, we had the local teams, obviously, and we did it on the West Coast. And whoever was in town was basically who we could get. It was availabilities for the most part. We had boxers on, a lot of NBA guys. Football was tough. Well, we got a couple of football. We had football guys on, but it was tough because they were also in camp and football. We had football guys on for sure, but a lot of basketball. Whoever was around, we had a lot of athletes.
Robert, who was the best actor? Who was the best actor out of all the athletes that had cameos on the show?
Broadcasters I put a different category because they're performers. I mean, by nature.
Mm-hmm.
Costas and guys like that, and Charlie Steiner. I could have them do stuff. The athletes, women. The women were good. Marion Jones was good. Peekaboo Street was good. Billie Jean King was good.
Yeah, Gabrielle Reese was on there.
Gabrielle Reese was good. The women were, just good. The thing about the athletes, which is interesting, now we did find out that Lincoln Kennedy was a drama minor in college, so I could give him some stuff. So I could give him some stuff to do, and I had him watch Mad Men World because I wanted him to emulate a scene in that. Roger Clemens is a longtime friend of mine, so I could ask Roger to do stuff, and the Yankees always want to know what's he going to say, and I knew that I wasn't going to tell him. David Wells loved coming on because he could curse.
Believe it.
So Wells loved it. He wanted to drop as many F-bombs as he could. Who else? Roy Jones Jr., very good. Who else was really good? Reggie Lewis was very good.
The late great,
yeah. Here's the thing about athletes, though. If you're a good athlete, generally, you're coachable, which means you take direction, which means that every rep, or in our case, every take, you got a little better. You got a little more comfortable.
No doubt.
So it may, if you do the comparison, you can understand that with every rep, with every take, he got a little bit better, got a little bit more comfortable. So that was it.
What was the thing that got you going into to satirize sports agency? Was it the Jerry Maguire thing? Was that?
No, Jerry Maguire wasn't on yet. Jerry Maguire didn't exist
that's
yet.
you were pre. Okay.
Yeah, we were on before Jerry Maguire. Although
No,
Jerry Maguire, being fair, who with Cameron, who was a friend, Jerry Maguire was probably in the writing stage, at least, maybe even the production stage when we went on, because movies take longer, pre-time.
Sure.
But we were on before Jerry Maguire. Jerry Maguire didn't exist. What it was HBO came to me about doing a satirical show about sports because they knew I knew a little bit about sports, and also I had a relationship with them doing comedy. So they came to me, and I came up with the idea. They wanted to do a Spinal Tap type of thing of each sport. I said, how long is that going to last? I said, you're going to go through 4 or 5 sports shows over. And I said, well, let's do it this way. Let's do a mini series, a satire on the world of sports as told to by a self-aggrandizing sports agent who was telling you his story, which was totally BS. But nobody had done this before. Sports agents, most people. Well, Mike Trope was around then, and who was the guy from Boston? He was Larry King's agent too.
Bob.
Yeah, Bob, not Bob. Bob Wolf.
Bob Wolf.
It was Bob.
Yeah.
Okay, but there was a couple of them. Arn was around, and Dennis Gilbert. So there was a few of them that were around, but nobody knew that much about them. But I did, and Mike Tolan, the producer, did, because this was the world we looked about. Now, what happened was a couple of things. One is we realized right away afterwards it's going to have to be a series to be, financially, business model. And another funny thing happened that I didn't even remember until I had to go through clearing the music rights about 2-3 years ago when they were going to stream it on Max. This is 1995, and I had recently read The Art of the Deal by Donald Trump.
Oh boy.
And as I'm reading this book, and I had met Trump a few times, and this is and I read this book and I said, this is total bullshit. I said, this guy is totally full of crap. I said, I would like to know, he's telling me this story, I would really like to know what really went on, because I don't believe a word of this book. So I said, but that's what I can do on Arliss. I can narrate and tell you what he said happened, but I can show the counterpoint of what actually happened. And that'll do as a counterpoint balance. And in fact, the beginning of Arliss, the title card, you see the book, Arliss, The Art of the Sports Super Agent, and it's a book of me holding a bat over my arm, over my shoulder, and that's taken directly from The Art of the Deal. I had totally forgotten about that because after the first 2 episodes, I never thought about it again, about any of it, at least alone, him. So it wasn't until about, like I said, 2 or 3 years ago, I go, holy mackerel, I
forgot that Trump influenced Arliss in that big of a way.
Yeah. I had forgotten the influence.
Scary now?
Good question.
In a peculiar way. In a peculiar way. Yeah.
Does it, and Robert? Does it scare you now? That when you look back and go, "Oh."
No. I think it doesn't scare me. No, it's foreboding, it just is. It's just peculiar.
You're going to reprise Arliss with a presidential run, perhaps?
No.
Unreal. A couple of. I want to back up on one thing. Barry Bonds. How about he was on the show a couple times?
Yeah, Barry's a friend. Barry's a friend too. So I met a bunch of these guys early on when Comic Relief was doing.
Exactly.
I think in 1993 it was. Comic Relief was doing a joint venture with the Players Association down in Florida for the opening of the Marlins, and they were doing some benefit down there. And so they had a big golf tournament and a celebrity softball game. And so I met all the guys. I met Barry and Barry Larkin, who's Barry Larkin was terrific. He's become a good friend. Larkin and Clemens and Bonds. And this is 93. and a bunch of guys there. So I became friendly with them. So it was easier for me to BS with those guys because I was friends.
Yeah.
Barry's interesting. If you get to talk to Barry, it's
Yeah, we play the Reds.
Yeah, Larkin's both Barrys. Larkin's really brilliant. He taught me one of the things I learned from Barry Larkin that stayed with me. When it comes to that level, the pros, Major League, with rare exceptions, the talent differential between these guys is about this much.
Right.
With exceptions. What makes the difference to all these guys, what makes them succeed, not succeed, to what level is here. It's up here. It's the mental approach and a little bit here.
No doubt.
But here for sure. It's their mental approach to the game. It's how they prepare mentally. And what's going to happen? Are they prepared for when a certain situation comes up in a game? And at some point it will come up. Are you prepared for that mentally? To react to it. Doesn't mean you're going to succeed, but you succeed much more if you're mentally prepared. That's what I learned most from Arliss.
Big game moments. Is there a parallel with actors and comedians to that? To what Barry said on that front? Being prepared for big game moments and sort of what's between your ears and your heart being separated.
Well, I think that's in any. I don't think that's necessarily in just acting. I think that goes to a lot of things. Some of it comes with experience, and some of it comes from guidance and mentorship. But with comedians, because you're pretty much locked into a set. You're locked into I worked with George Carlin for a month, and that was
one of my favorites, all-time favorites.
That was great fun. HBO was this is before Arliss, I believe, just before Arliss. They were doing a special 20 years of comedy on HBO. Yeah, so it had to be before Arliss. So, and George was going to host it, and I was writing it. And I met with George in his office every day for a month.
Wow.
And I don't know how much work we got through it, but we talked about everything else but comedy. And George was interesting to talk with. And I once asked James Worthy what it was like to be with Dean Smith, the coach of North Carolina. And he said he didn't talk much about basketball. He talked about other things. I go, that's what I felt like when I was with Carlin. We didn't talk that much about comedy per se. We talked about everything else, So, and I liked that a lot. I don't think I saw him twice after that in my entire life, but that was fun. I enjoyed that.
Big influence on a generation and a half of maybe even two generations of comics, right?
Oh, Carlin's on Mount Rushmore.
Yeah. Who else is on your Mount Rushmore comics during your time?
Let's see. It's different. Because everybody's going to be different with Mount Rushmore. It's usually there. And by the way, comedy is like it's incredibly generational. Most things I think in life are generational.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
I look at these lists on Facebook, the best westerns ever made, and they're all after 1975 and 1990. It's like. But that's most things. I think most things are generational. I really do. And it's going to happen to your sons. It'll be when the next generation comes.
Oh, no doubt. Hey, they can give you a list of their top 20 mob movies right now.
My generation of we're talking stand-up comics now. We're not talking about comedy in general. Pryor, got to be up there.
Okay.
I would say Carlin's got to be up there. Robin is so unique that he'd probably have to be up there, Robin Williams.
Right.
Although he's not as, I don't know if he's as influential because no one could do what Robin did, whereas...
You'd have to be crazy to try to do
Robin, again, if I'm being politically correct, which I don't want to be, if you're going to put a woman, you'd probably put Joan up there, Rivers.
Okay.
But if I'm not being politically correct, there were a couple of great comics when I grew up. Alan King was a great comic. Alan King was a great comic. Rodney is a great comic.
Where do you put Rickles?
Rickles is in a category. Rickles is a great comic. He's in a category. It's like, but these are. I mean, Pryor changed comedy. Carlin changed comedy.
Oh.
Robin, I don't know how. I don't know if Robin changed things. I guess he did, in a way.
Yeah. Did you know him well? Did
so
you know
good.
Robin well?
Oh yeah, very well. And we did good. I knew him when he was first starting before Mork and Mindy, just before Mork and Mindy came on, and he would come out from the West Coast. And then I knew him all those years, and then we did Good Morning Vietnam together. I was in it with him, and so I knew Robin very well. One of the great human beings.
Give me wait a minute. Back up. Hold on. What role did you play in Good Morning Vietnam?
I was one of the disc jockeys.
Of course you were. That's right. That's a heck of a movie.
That's like Billy's a great comic artist. They're great, but I don't know how they changed. It's like Pryor and Carlin, at least of that generation. Like I think Chris Rock is a great comic.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris is great. But and again, it's a person. And again, he's talking about personal taste. It was interesting because I did a whole thing of professional sports. I said, who would be on your Mount Rushmore professional sports? And the guys who really made things change. And believe it, the guys I had, and I mean these are.
Here we go.
Okay, and it's one's going to shock you because I'm leaving out somebody, and I would have to. I really should go 5. They're 5. There shouldn't be 4.
All right. Let me hear it.
Okay, Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth changes America. Ali, Muhammad Ali, Jackie Robinson.
Absolutely.
And the 4th, like I said, there should have been a 5th. There probably been a 5th, but the 4th is Billie Jean King. And I'm leaving out, as you notice, I left out Michael Jordan, which would be the 5th.
Yeah.
Michael, he affected change more commercially, I think, because we had great basketball players before Michael.
Sure.
I mean, there was always, no matter if he's the greatest, well, there's going to be another greatest, and there was a greatest before him. What did he change? What he changed was globally, I'd say, commercially, the game a bit, and on a lot of different levels. By the way, I was going to school in Houston. Like I said, I was at the Battle of the Sexes game against. It was in the Astrodome. We were having no intention of going, but it was like $5 to set up high, so we went the last second. I was there for that. Yeah, because I was at Houston. I went to the Ali fights when he used to fight in the Astrodome back then on the comeback trail.
Ernie Terrell.
Yeah, I think it was early. I forgot.
Yeah, Ernie Terrell in the Astrodome. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it was on the comeback trail or it was before he's expelled.
Ooh, good question. I think
suspended because I remember
it might have been right before.
Had to be before because he only had 2 or 3 fights. Well, I don't know. Right. I forgot. He only had like 2 fights before he fought Frazier when he came back. Then he fought some people after that, so those were the fights. I don't remember.
Hey Robert, if you're going cultural impact with that list, that Mount Rushmore, what do you think? You have Ali, you have Babe Ruth, Jackie, Allen Iverson instead of Michael Jordan in terms of cultural impact. Maybe it's the born in 1983 talking here, but what do you think about AI? Because he changed so much in terms of fashion and culturally what's acceptable. Interested in your thoughts.
I think if you asked somebody under the age of 30 who Allen Iverson is, they wouldn't know.
There's a generational
sort
of divide again.
Everything's generational. No, I don't think Allen Iverson belongs. I would not. Mount Rushmore? A professional sports?
I'm putting him up there because of how much he changed the world.
I mean, it's nice of you. It's
playoffs. Yeah.
I mean, are you a big 76er fan? I mean, Allen Iverson?
I mean, my
God. I mean,
what about Allen Houston? No,
come on. He's right below Iverson. He's right below Iverson. I mean, these other people you're talking about. These are people who have been gone for years, and we talk about him. I
Right,
mean,
exactly. I gotta have. Let's see, Mr.
Yeah.
Robinson, Babe Ruth.
Ali. You got to have Ali.
You gotta have Ali.
And Jim Brown, right?
And I'm a
Jim
big
Brown's
Jim Brown
interesting.
guy.
Jim Brown's interesting because out of the 200 athletes I had on Arliss, I never asked for an autograph from anybody except Jim Brown. Jim Brown, I talked with Jim. That's another guy. When we were shooting, I talked with him for about 2 hours, just when we weren't shooting. And we didn't talk that much about. We talked about everything. I mean, a lot about football. My dad's favorite team was the Cleveland Browns, so I knew history of that, and Marion Motley and the All-American Football League.
Absolutely.
So I knew the whole history. So, and we talked about Gary Collins, who he said was the best football player he ever played with. Was a wide receiver.
86. Post batter.
So Jim Brown is that at least is a worthwhile name, Alan Irish.
All right, hey, let me switch categories. How about this? Actors. The guys, Jared Jordan and same here, big De Niro fans. What was it like working with him?
Great. I got into the Academy because of De Niro. I was doing a movie Mistress, and it was the first movie Tribeca filmed, and he cast me. And
Wow.
and you have to have two people to sign your card to get entrance into the Academy, and you have to have two members who will sponsor you. And the two members who sponsored me were De Niro and Martin Landau. So I got in.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, really. And so De Niro is, you're talking about a great artist. That's and so was Marty. Marty Landau was a great,
Of course,
great
Martin Landau. Yeah, from I remember. Well, we're the same age. So Mission Impossible, obviously.
Sure. Martin Landau was.
Yeah.
How
about Jack Nicholson? You were in Batman with Jack.
There's nobody like Jack. Jack is in a world of his, is in a class by himself. I was at a party one time and a girl came up to Jack and says, "You want to dance?" Jack went, "Wrong verb." Jack is, first of all, Jack was so smart, and Jack is such a great raconteur storyteller. And I mean, he would tell stories about, he's been a movie star for so long. He'd say, "Well, I was at a party in England, back in the early 80s, and Princess Margaret is there, and I'm coking her up pretty good." And you hear stories about Princess Margaret doing blow. It's like, what? It's also,
yeah, right.
But Jack he loves actors, loves acting. Jack was special. I mean, that's a very special. I've been very fortunate. Jack was very special.
So I see another name and then I know Jared Jordy recognized. Joe Pantoliano was
Joey Pants
on our list with me. Yeah, Joey Pants.
Yeah, what happened was I met Joey Pants right after I did Batman. The great casting director who put me in Batman, Marion Dougherty, she started the casting director business. They were about to do the very first episodes of Tales from the Crypt for HBO. And Richard Donner, the great Dick Donner, was going to direct it. And Marion said, "Look, there's a part of this guy, he's a carnival barker." And I had done some carnival barking at the Astro World. And
really?
She said, "You want to do the part?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So So Joey Pants was playing this guy who would, they put, I believe what it was, a scientist put a cat's heart into him, or a cat's brain, so he could get killed 9 times. The guy had 9 lives. So we could kill him during the part 9 times. And so I was the carnival parker in on this thing, and Joey Pants, and we could not stop breaking up during the shoot. I mean, it was like 4 or 5 days, and we blew so many takes, and Dick Donner was hysterical, and I mean, we just couldn't stop laughing. So when it came time for the Arliss thing to play this guy, I said, and the interesting thing is Mike Tolan, my producer, he desperately wanted Richard Kind, who I didn't know at the time, and has now become a close friend. But I didn't know Richard Kind at the time. You know who Richard Kind is now. He is.
Yeah. He lives in Upper West Side. Yeah, I've met him a couple times. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a great guy. But I didn't know him at the time. And Mike said, and Mike kind of promised him this part. And I said, no, it's going to go Joey Pants. Because at the time I wanted to stunt cast as much as I could because, we're a TV show. So, and I forced Joey Pants on him. And Joey Pants was great, in Arliss. He's great. But Richard Kind will tell you, I didn't like Robert because he kept me out from being a part of the show. Now, and he told me that. So, but we're good friends. We've become very good friends since. He's a good guy.
Mentioned Jack and Batman. I've grown up watching you. Whether it was Arliss, huge impact. I've been a huge fan for forever. Batman, I read, I saw that you improv the line, "What's he pull down after taxes?" What are some of the best sort of improv moments from your films that you remember and didn't see coming?
Well, I mean, I've been fortunate that the directors have allowed me to do that. A lot of directors don't do that. I'm about to go shoot next week. I'm going to Atlanta to Jason Reitman is doing a movie called SNL 1975, which is about the first night of Saturday Night Live and the chaos that went on there. So he said, "Robert, I got a small part here. If you play, you'd be able to play a little bit of improving." So I'm playing the director, Dave Wilson. And there's not much there for me to do, but I'm going to do as much as I can. But I've been fortunate. Now, the most famous improv line that I ad-libbed was, by the way, I always shoot what's on the page. And then if they'll let me do another take or so, that's when I'll always give them what they wrote. It was Bull Durham. In Bull Durham, Candlesticks. Yeah, because what happened there was, a week before we started shooting, I had a friend, Barbara Parrott, who was about to get married, and I asked my wife, "What do I get Barbara and Michael for a wedding present?" And she said, "Candlestick always make a nice gift, or find out where she's registered, maybe a place setting or a silverware pattern." So a week or two later, we're shooting this scene on the mound, and it's the last shot of the night, and we're shooting nights, and it's cold. It's very cold. In fact, if you watch Bull Durham, you can see the breath. It's cold. We're shooting in November. And so Ron Shelton says, now the way the scene went, what was written was, I came out and I said, "What the hell's going on out here?" And Kevin Costner says, "Well, Nuke's father is in the stands. The first baseman's girlfriend has put a curse on his glove, and we don't know what to get Millie and Jimmy for a wedding present. We're dealing with a lot of shit here." And I was supposed to say, okay, I thought there was a problem. Let's go. That's it. That's all I had to say. So we shot that, and there was a last shot of the night. And Ron Shelton, the director, says, "Robert, you've been sitting in that dugout for 5 hours. I know you've been thinking of something. Okay, one time, you got 2 cameras on them. Let's go. Take a shot." So they did the whole setup, and they said, the whole thing, the Nuke's father, the curse on the glove, we don't know what to get him for a wedding present. We're dealing with a lot of shit here. And I said, "Well, Candlesticks always make a nice gift to find out where she's registered, maybe a silverware pattern or a place setting. Okay, let's get 2." And which is the release, which makes it work because that's the release line. And the next day, it's customary, it was back then, that you'd see dailies the next day when they shot film. They don't do that much anymore. But the crew cast and crew would get around, we'd have a couple of cocktails, and we'd watch the previous night's work. And now most of the crew and cast had gone home because it was the last shot. So nobody knew this. So it came up, and then when it came up on the screen, everybody broke up laughing. And I thought, well, that's kind of cool. It's the last time I'm ever going to see it.
Didn't think it would make the cut.
The directors are going to say, "What?" No, because most directors would say, "Look, it's funny, it's in character, it works, but I didn't write it, and this is my film." So, and then it showed up in the when I saw a preview. Now, the postscript to that is that the studio wanted to cut out the entire scene on the mound, the entire scene. And they said it doesn't push plot. And Ron Shelton said, "What plot? There is no plot in this movie. This is what the movie's about." And the only reason it stayed in, is because when they had these preview shows, they had these focus groups, and you fill out cards. They fill out cards, and they ask you, "What is your favorite scene in the movie?" And it was always
Mound scene.
number 1 or number 2. Right. It was always number 1 and number 2. So that's the only reason it stayed in. And that was become
iconic. Super iconic is and easily one of my favorite moments from the movie. Is that the number 1 as far as fans coming up to you and shouting your lines back at you?
Well, yeah, that would be, because of Bull Durham. If you're a big Batman fan, sometimes they'll talk about King of the Wicker People. If yeah, I would say that. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of stuff in Hollywood Nights because we
Right.
never had a script. Pretty much, I edited the whole movie. But yeah, but the most prominent one is
I'm
Candlestick.
just curious. It was on the soundtrack as Prince. Did you ever, connect with or meet Prince or get to hang out with Prince, or was
Oh, I got to meet him. I didn't hang with him. I got to meet him at a party or two. I didn't know I was on the soundtrack until about 10 years
Really?
ago. And when I heard my voice, I said, "Oh, I wonder if I can get royalties."
get some scratch?
Because having royalties from a Prince soundtrack could be a nice paycheck. So I never found that out. I'm sure I wrote everything. I had to sign everything away. So I'm sure they let me. They I don't have any. I should still look into that though.
Hey, man, I really appreciate it. Fellas, I know you appreciate it. Told you it was good, dude.
Hi, everybody. Dave Sims from the Hey Now podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us here on the Hey Now podcast.
I can't stand